Book writing. I haven't talked about my book since, let's see, when was the last time I made a book video? April 6th, 2017. Wow, it's been a while. You don't have to watch all the other episodes of the book writing saga that I've made, but I mean, you can if you want. I'll link the playlist in the description. So, my book. If you haven't heard, I've been working on a book for a while. Won't tell you the name. It's a fantasy. I quite like it. My friends think it's alright. And now I'm on the second one. And, oh boy, finishing a book was crazy. I've been writing for a very long time. I've been writing for as long as I can remember. Short stories and long stories. This book that I've been working on has kind of been the first book that I took seriously. You know, like I was like, I want to write this book because this is a story I really like and I want other people to read it. Like, all my other stories were just for me, and I knew that they were just for me. But this one, it is right now mostly just for me, but I want it to eventually be for other people to read and enjoy and connect to. So that'll be cool. And finishing that book was so weird because I know that these characters' stories, they're not finished yet. There's gonna be a second book, but it's still weird, and it's gonna be even weirder when I finish the second book, and then that's the end of my characters' stories. Like, then they'll live on without me. What happens to characters when you stop writing about them? I don't want to think about that because I will miss them dearly. A year ago, I asked for writing related questions, and there are some good ones, so I'm gonna answer them. And if you have any other questions about writing, leave them in the comments below so I can answer them one day. It might be a year later, but I'll get to them. One question that I really want to touch on: any tips on creating a realistic villain? Yeah. First of all, for the answer to any of these questions, read a lot about what you are writing about. Read everything. Read stories with strong villains, read stories with lots of villains, read stories with good villains or bad villains or evil villains or kind of relatable villains. For me, the villains that I enjoy reading about most are the villains that I can relate to almost, or I can, at one point, even if it's not the whole time I know the villain in the story, if I can relate to them like one time for just a short while, it's kind of unnerving to relate to a villain. I would suggest making your villain more than just a villain. Have a backstory, have their wants and desires clearly in your head when you write about them, because a villain is just a person who does lots of bad things to your protagonist. Why do they do bad things to your protagonist? You know, flesh out their wants and needs and whys and whats and wheres and all that good stuff. Just ask lots of questions to yourself about your villain, and they'll seem more real in the end. How many is too many characters, or is there a limit? And if you have any tips on making a good character, that would be my questions. Good questions. I don't think that there's a limit to how many characters you can have, as long as the characters don't seem like too thin. You know, you want all of your characters to feel like real people. When your readers read about your book, you don't want them to confuse one character with another or forget like who that person is. You know, make sure that in your head all these characters are their own people. They have their own wants and desires, same as like I said with the villain. You want your characters to be as fleshed out as possible, because then people can relate to them. I'd say as long as you're not stretching your characters too thin, then I don't think there's a limit to how many characters you can have. I have a big cast of characters in my book, and I think it works because I have kind of a lot of things going on in the story, and all of my characters are their own person. Like, they're so different from one another in my eyes, I guess. I did write them, so it might be a little, I don't know, I might see them differently than my readers would. How do you make good dialogue? What I would say is don't focus on the thing that follows it. You know, the Sarah said or Susan asked. Don't be afraid of the word said. I've seen so many blog posts and in writing tip videos that are like, don't use said is boring. I mean, sure, it's boring, but sometimes it's necessary, because sometimes you want the dialogue to be more important than whatever's hanging after it. You know, if there's some fun banter going on, you don't want to interrupt that banter with some fancy way to say he said, you know? So I would say, she said, read it in your head a couple times. Once you write out the dialogue, the conversation, whatever you're doing, read it in your head, read it out loud with another person, and see if it sounds stilted or forced or unnatural, and then fix it in those places where it does sound unnatural. Because if it's a conversation, it should sound normal when you say it out loud. I struggled with dialogue a lot, but I feel like I have grasped it all right. I feel like I've gotten it a bit, so I hope those tips help. There's one question about publishing. Have you ever thought about publishing? I've been thinking about publishing since I was like 8 years old, so if any of you have any connections, hit me up. Another one, how do you get past writer's block? I don't know. I constantly struggle with writer's block, and it's rough. It's rough. You just gotta push through it, because writer's block is always gonna happen, and it's always gonna go away. You just have to push through it, because if you just stay there and you're just like, this is too hard, then you're never gonna get past it. And maybe what you wrote before is what's blocking you. Like, I was stuck on this chapter and I could not move past it, and I was like, what is happening? And it's just because how I ended the last chapter wasn't good. So I just deleted that and wrote something else, and then it flowed out. Sometimes you just need to kill what you've written so you can write better things. And that can be hard, because you're like, what if I delete all this? What if I need it? Have a separate document for your, like, deleted scenes. So if you ever need a phrase or a situation that you wrote about and then deleted, then it's not completely gone. That's what I do. If I am deleting a big chunk of something, I'll put it in another document for later. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say. For the cool Q&A, to close off about my book, I am currently editing and searching for literary agents. It is hard because I've never been in this field before. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing, which is why I'm getting an agent, because they know what to do and I don't. I hope one day you all can read my book. That'd be really cool. That's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.